Nedarim Daf Pei Gimel contains one Mishnah. First part of the Gemara discusses the Gemara's two proofs on a concept of what happens where a woman makes a double neder. The first part is eating nefesh, and the second part is not. Can the husband be made for the second part, which is not eating nefesh, because of the first part? Two proofs on that subject. Then we'll get to the Mishnah, which we'll talk about if she makes a neder against the whole world. Does that include her husband? Is he considered to be part of the whole world? So first of all, the question that the Gemara discussed on the last daf was if a woman made a neder, she's not going to eat from two pieces of bread. Now, the first piece she needs to eat from, she's not going to have any bread to eat, that's inui nefesh. And therefore, it's one of the categories that the husband could be mefer. It's too restrictive, too much personal distress. However, once she has that one piece of bread to eat, there's no reason that he has to be made for the second one. Therefore, he has no right to be made for the second one because it's not inui nefesh, it's not bein aleveinoi. So the question is there a concept of garara, which is that because the two nedarim were made together, just like he could be made for the first part, he could be made for the second part. Now we saw in hataras nedarim, we had a concept of ein hatara lemiktsas. If you're made for part of a neder, then you're made for if you're matir, part of a neder, you're matir the whole neder. This is different. This is hafara, and we don't know that the same rule applies. So the Gemara had quoted Rav Yechanan, who said that no, you're only made for the first part and you're not made for the second part stays. So Gemara has two kashas on it. The Gemara's first kasha is from a lady who's makabel nazirus, and she violates her nazirus. Now nazirus counts as a neder. You could be made for nazirus. So here she was makabel nazirus, and she's drinking wine, she's being metame to mesim. So of course she's violating an isidar, right? So she gets malchus. However, if the husband was mefer and she did not know, then there's no malchus. That's what the Mishnah says. Even if she's drinking wine, she's being tama mesim and doing all the things that she's not supposed to do. So Mara's kasha is very nice. The husband was mefer the nazirus. That's only for the things that are inui nefesh, like drinking wine. But she's going to eat grape seeds and grape skins. That's not inui nefesh, so fine. So she won't eat grape seeds and grape skins. It doesn't have a right to be made for that, and therefore she's still violating that. So even though he was made for it, she should still be violating her nazirus because of those things, because of the charton and zag, and therefore she should get malchus for that. So Gemara answers, there's no such thing as a partial nazirus. Nazirus is not like a neder that has two parts to it. You can't be makabel. I want to be half a nazir. I want to have some halachas of a nazir, but not others. That doesn't work. In the same way, you can't be mefer half a nazirus. And therefore, she has the entire nazirus. If it's all hufa, if he's mefer part of it because the part of it is deemed to be nefesh, which it is, drinking wine, then he's made for the entire thing, and the entire nazirus is off. So now the Gemara goes on a little bit of a tangent here. The Gemara says that Abaye says that from the wording of Rav Yosef, where he said ein nazirus l'chatzayim, it implies that there is such a thing as chatzi nazirus, that you could have nazirus that is partial nazirus, not that it's part of the halachos, but it's part of the time. So let's say she does 2 weeks of nazirus, and then he's mefer. So what happens now? The Gemara quotes a brisa that says if she was already metame, and even she was metame as part, she broke her nazirus through tumah by mistake. So now she has to bring 3 karbanos. She has to bring a carbon, chatas, oila, and shlamim. And she sets the animal aside to bring one of the karbanos. And then the husband steps in and he's mefer the nazirus. Now the nazirus is off. Still, the halacha says that she still has to bring a carbon, chatas, ha'oif. So Gemara asks, why should you have to bring a carbon chatas life? If he's mefer the nazirus and the nazirus disappears completely like it never was, you shouldn't have to bring everything. Obviously, there is a partial nazirus. The nazirus of the first 2 weeks sticks around. So Gemara says, if that's true, so then how come she doesn't have to bring all the karbanos? If you're telling me that the first 2 nazirus exist still and his hafara doesn't cancel them like they never were, then she should have to bring all 3. So obviously the pshat is that really the nazirus is completely gone. There is no nazirus for halfway. However, the reason she has to bring the chatas is because chatas is something which anyway comes for mistakes, and it comes for a suffix. So since it's such a thing that it comes for a mistake and for a suffix, it could apply on a nazirus that was canceled. It's by the definition of what a chatas is that it's for these weak, canceled, halfway things, and that's why it works for halfway nazirus. And now the Gemara goes to its second kasha on the halacha that you can't be mefer the second part of the neder. And the Gemara is going to ask from this very brisa that we just brought about a lady who's makabel nazirus, and then she becomes tamei. in the middle of it, and then her husband was mefer, and the halacha is that she brings a carbon chatas, but she does not bring a carbon oila, and she doesn't bring a carbon shlamim. The Gemara's question, very similar to the one before, is why not? I understand the husband was mefer, but it was only made for the thing that has tsar, the thing that causes inui nefesh, which is withholding from wine, but tumas meis. How is that inui nefesh to not be able to be mitame? So therefore, the fact that she violated that halacha, she should have to bring the full karbanis, even though he was made for the part that he could be made for. Now the Gemara does not answer that there's naziris and there's no such thing as partial naziris, which we said before, and the Rishonim discuss why that answer doesn't work here. Now the Gemara, what the Gemara answers is that Tomas Meis also is Inui Nefesh. For her not being able to be Metame herself is also an Inui. And the reason is because if somebody doesn't bury others, then they won't have people that are willing to bury them. The Gemara learns that from the pasuk in Kohelas V'Achai Yitin El Liboy, what should the living place on his heart? Rabbi Meir says in a brisa that somebody who is maspid, somebody who eulogizes others, will have people to eulogize him. Somebody who cries for others will have people to cry for him, and somebody who buries others will have people to bury him. Therefore, it's inei nefesh for her to withhold from burying others, and it could be made for that as well. This concludes the Gemara. Now we get to the next Mishnah. This Mishnah discusses if a lady makes an Isser Hana, she's not having any Hana from Brios, from all people. So could the husband be made for that? Now, if he is included in the Isser, he could be made for it because it is Beinoi Leveina. If he's not included in the Isser, the Gemara doesn't consider it to be Inui Nefesh because she could still have Hana from him. So it would depend. If he's included in the Isser, he could be made for it. The Mishnah says he is not included in the Yisr, which implies that he's not considered to be one of people, and therefore he cannot be made for it. Now, the Mishnah says further, she could, however, still have enough from leket shikha and peya. Those are things which are left out of a field by halacha for the poor people, and she has a right to take that. It's not considered to be being nena from people because since they don't have any rights over it, they have to leave it over. They didn't get it. She does not get it from them. She gets it from Hefker. Next halacha the Mishnah says is if she says that she is not going to have any hana, she's not allowing Kahanim and Leviim to have any hana from her, so they could still take Truma and Meiser from her against her will. There's no hafara required, and that's because she can't hold it. They have to have it. It belongs to them, and therefore, just like Meiser, just like a chikha and Peya, she could take, and it's not violating Isser Hana. The Kahanim and Leviim could take the Truma and Meiser is not considered to be violating an Isser Hana. Now, if she says a certain specific Kahanim and Leviim, they are also to have enough from her, then they don't take her Truma and Meiser. Other Kahanim and Leviim will take those. All right, the Gemara begins. The Gemara focuses on the first part of the Mishnah. So the implication is from the first part that the husband, as we said, is not considered to be one of the people because he cannot be Mayfair, which means the neder is not Inu Nefesh because she still gets support from her husband. So whereas Kasha is, and what does it mean in the next line where it says that she could collect Leka Chikha and Peya? Even though I understand why that's not considered to be violating Isser Hana, but you have to be in Ani, you have to be poor to be able to collect Leka Chikha and Peya, and if her husband is not included in the Yisr, she gets full support from her husband just like always. So why is there any reason for her to be considered an Ani and be allowed to take Lekhet, Chikha, and Peya? So you have a contradiction, sort of. Is the husband included in the Yisr, or is the husband not included in the Yisr? So Gemara gives three answers. The first answer comes from Ula, and he says, really, the husband is not included in the Yisr. She could have Hana from her husband. She still gets full support from her husband. What we're doing here is we're giving two reasons that the husband can't be made for. The first reason we said is because the husband is not considered to be in the Isser Hana at all. The second reason that she can't be made for is because it's not going to be Inui Nefesh anyway, because besides the husband, even if you didn't have the husband, she would be able to collect from Leket, Shikha, and Peya. So therefore, she's never considered to be an Inui Nefesh situation at all. That's Gemara's first answer. Rava says, no, really, the husband is included in the Yisr. And the only reason that she's that you can't be Mayfair is because she gets from Leket, Shikha, and Peah, her husband is not allowed to support her, therefore she has no source of support. It should be an inyan nefesh. It's not, because she still has food from leket, shikha, and Peah, and the Mishnah is saying that it's not violating the Yisr Hana. Gemara's third answer is Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman says, no, the husband is included. The husband is not included in the Isser Hana, and therefore she cannot collect Leket, Shekha, and Peah while they're married. However, once they get divorced, now the husband is no longer considered to be exempt from the Isser Hana she made. So now there is a full Isser Hana. Now she could collect from Leket, Shekha, and Peah, because the husband goes into the Isser. He's not her husband any longer. Therefore, she has no support. Now she becomes poor. And the Mishnah is saying, in this situation, now she no longer has any support. She's poor. She can collect Leket, Shekha, and Peah, and there's no Isser Hana on that.